So what are these major challenges and implications? I mean, I've presented to you some important things that you need to know about PBL, tools online that work, learning management systems, example projects. Well, there are some challenges and implications here for this because we've got to do better as an online world in making sure that we're pushing the envelope, because right now I believe that the online world is in danger of replicating a system that doesn't service all of its students. If we look at it, it looks very traditional. We've got to make sure that we're meeting all students' needs in the online world now. And I think that there's going to be a big pushback here in terms of quality. So what are some of these challenges? We've got to make sure that, one of the challenges is a lot of the courses are just kind of points-based. There's not really necessarily a tie to all standards. Even though the lessons or the assessments may be tied to standards, it's not necessarily transparent to kids, or the grading practices don't reflect those standards or proficiency-based grading. So we've got to make sure that when we're doing this, that our project products, as we're doing that, are aligned to standards, and that our grade books and our courses reflect that and allow us to do these things. In addition, we've got to make sure that there's a flexibility in the way the course is delivered and in the way the course is structured. As I mentioned, I was able to take away certain lessons that I didn't think were necessarily needed, or differentiate instruction by allowing some optional lessons, for example, for kids who maybe need some extra practice. And I also had power in terms of allowing these projects to be authentic and real, and put those right into the course. So there's got to be a conversation around that and how are we doing that within our courses, and making sure that we have that flexibility as the teachers. And so I know that some do have that and some do not. So there needs to be some thought and talk around that. Related to that is that, most of the online world is just individual work. It's students by themselves. So we have to think about, well, how are we leveraging teams and, preparing students for the 21st century? If we're just doing the online world, they're just doing stuff by themselves. We're not doing that, are we? We've got to make sure we're having team assessments when they work on projects. So we have team products that are, assessed and, count, so to speak. So we've got to have, that's kind of what are the implications and challenges out there, and how do we have that conversation with our parents and with our students, that, it's not just about you, it's about the group and how they work. Another challenge, I think personally, is one of the interesting things is with PBL, you've got to have benchmarks, right? By Friday, they've got to have, draft one, or they've had to have gone through these things. Just like when we have our online pacing guides. And I think that's one way to manage the flexibility that students have in online world. That's the beauty of online world, is that, in online education, is that students can do things at their own pace when they want to, but we also want to make sure students aren't falling too far behind. So I think that if we are able to manage the benchmarks of the project as well as the benchmarks students need to have, by Friday, you need to be through, these 3 lessons. You got to make sure that we're doing that, because that's going to make sure that the projects are on track, so that students can collaborate together and will have all the knowledge they need. Yeah, it is a challenge. Yeah, you're absolutely right. People are saying, yeah, that's a big challenge, because a lot of it is, how do we keep students on task and on time, and so that the work is done on time, so they're not falling too far behind, right? And that is a challenge for that, managing the personalization and flexibility, but at the same time trying to make sure that all students are ready by Friday to collaborate, so to speak, on the next part of the project. So that's a challenge. And again, I mentioned this already, we need to make sure that our learning management systems match the PBL pedagogy. Like, we've got to make sure that it doesn't just look like the traditional, that we allow for the structure. Structures are very important. The structure matches all those things, that it has ways to collaborate and stuff. So these are just some of the challenges I'm sure that many of you know about. I'm seeing some yeses. People are going, oh, for sure, especially in the courses being standards-based and the course delivery. I'm seeing some people saying, that's a big challenge for me as an online teacher. I don't have necessarily flexibility, and I worry about that, and it's hard for me to differentiate instruction. I agree. So we've got to think about that. So these are just some of the challenges you need and the implications, and there are more. But next steps, I want to move it to questions. I have a couple more slides after this, but I want to move it to questions and some of your goals. So if you could just send me just a quick reflection, either some of the things you're thinking about, some of the things that you're doing. Okay, I see a question about, how do you get students to do work on a project? What happens with those students who are doing work? That's always a question we get in our PBL trainings and stuff, and especially the online world. I know what you're saying, because you're not right there with them. You know what I mean? I think that's what you're getting at. Yes, and so you want to make sure that that's what PBL is all about, is creating the engagement and need to know. If you're creating a project that's authentic, that's real world, that has a relevance to it, students are more prone to actually want to learn it and stay on task. And that's also why you have students work in groups. It has them hold each other accountable. And so they can work together. And I do agree that communication can be challenging, and so you have to establish norms in the classroom, like we did in my online. We did that where we said, okay, well, what if a teammate sends you an email? How much time do you have before you send it back? And we set a rule for 24 hours, for example, was one of our norms. You have to respond to an email or an Edmodo post within 24 hours. And I think that really helps, because then we can hold students accountable. So we created the routine. Every day you got to check your email and respond. Every day you got to, go to Edmodo. So you've got to create those routines with students to hold them, to keep pushing them and keep the urgency of staying on top of the work that they need to do, not only individually, but in terms of the project work that they're doing. I think that's a great question. I'm seeing some goals here. Let me just kind of go back through them. The goals are that you have to create the need to know in the online classroom, that the flipped classroom isn't just everything. That's a great reflection. That's good. Okay, that you have to make sure that your tools meet a need, and for example, an essential element of PBL. Yes, I agree. That you have to hold on. I'm going back through them. Create a great driving question that engages students. That's just a good PBL practice. I'm glad that you found that useful. That your structures have to match, your PBL environment. I agree. That's really great. Okay. And that one of your goals is to go talk to your online teachers about how you can do PBL online. I'm excited. Let me know. Yeah, I'd be happy to help you. How you plan to do that? That you're gonna maybe try flip in your classroom. Wow, I'd love to see how that works for you. Again, use PBL as that model. Remember, flip classroom doesn't solve everything, but that's a great start, and I think it will really help to create an engaging environment in classroom. I'm glad that you're thinking about the flip classroom, and that it is a very now thing. So maybe that'll help you out. Yeah, I'm glad that's helpful to you. So as I continue to see more questions and goals, let's see. I'm going to move ahead, do a quick little shameless plug. For those people who are in the online world and involved in that bigger conversation, the iNACOL has a virtual school symposium here in November. I'm going to be presenting on two things on PBL Online. So a very similar presentation. If you're there, I'd love to talk with you. Oh, good, you're going. I'm excited. Yeah, no, I'll see you there. I'd love to meet up and talk more about it. We can keep that. We got to demand quality, right? That's because you're going to hear a lot about the flipped classroom at iNACOL, and they're going to think it's the best thing since sliced bread. But I think, like I said, we got to do better. Yeah, and I see people say, I saw through the thing that we got to demand quality. We've got to do better in the online world. So I will be presenting there November 11th at 9:45. I will also be doing about culturally responsive online programs. That's another passion of mine. And I do believe that PBL is culturally responsive, hence why I'm going to talk about that kind of in the online world. And then we have to make sure we're doing that. So that's just two things if you're interested in and want to be part of the national conversation of online learning, international, actually. I'd love to see you there. Yeah, no, I'd be happy to hook up with you. Yeah, no, Dan, no problem. Yeah, just, let me know. Send me an email. I'll give you my email in a second, and I'd be happy to, we can do a little tweet up, as they call it. Yeah, for sure. Other questions? Let me see. Let me go back through and see if there's any other major questions here. Let's see. Are there tools to help me build a project? Yeah, if you go to BIE.org, we've got a great do-it-yourself tutorial there, as well as tools, rubrics, things like that. You can post your project in the forums, and people like me will give you some feedback. So yeah, please, use those tools. It's open to you. I'm excited about that. What learning management system did I use? I had Moodle, but there are a lot out there. I've used Blackboard for this as well. Again, you have to have flexibility. That's what the thing is. You've got to have flexibility in the learning management system. So you've got to make sure to do that. How did you get a public audience? You know what I did? I just reached out there and asked people. I said, hey, who needs help? Who can help me with my kids? And there are people out there. So you got to reach out and see who's willing to do that, whether it's a colleague, a business person. Just go for it and give it a shot. You never know what's going to happen out there. Just so as we transition to the end of this webinar, like I said, go to BIE.org. Please do follow me on Twitter. Beta Miller, BETA-MILLER. I don't tweet ridiculous things. I don't say, Andrew had a great salad for lunch today. Yay. No, I don't do that. I just tweet things that have to do with education, PBL, educational technology, online learning, my passions, things like that. So please do follow me. I'd love to see if you'd like to join the conversation that I do. You can also follow some of the blogs that I do for people like ASCD, Edutopia, as well as BIE. Please do follow BIE. They're gonna give you a lot of great stuff on PBL, tools, videos, example projects. blogs. Just go follow them. And again, if you have any personal questions for me or thoughts, please do email me, andrew@bie.org. Again, my online learning is a passion for me. I think we're moving in an exciting direction for education, but we've got to make sure that we're really demanding quality, and that's what this webinar to me is all about. I want to make sure that our online stuff is really pushing forward and innovating, because online learning is innovative, but we've got to make sure that we're innovating within online learning. So again, if you have any further questions or things like that, please do email me. I hope this webinar was useful to you. It helps you really think about how you not only are going to do your PBL better with technology, but how you might move it into that blended or online environment. And I'm excited to say I saw there's an instructional designer here that he's really going to think about how we can create some projects that online. So I'm excited to see that at the higher level, the curriculum level, there's some thought around that. So take this information, take it back to your colleagues. This webinar will be posted. And so you can watch it over and over again to your heart's content, because I'm sure you really want to, and share it with your colleagues out there. So please do watch the webinar and send me any questions that you have. I look forward to hearing from you on Twitter and seeing you follow me and collaborating with you. So I hope you guys, I hope to hear from you later, and let's demand quality in our PBL and demand quality in our online education with PBL Online. Take care.